Right now, the average knowledge worker gets interrupted or interrupts themselves every few minutes. Your attention is being pulled apart hundreds of times a day, and most people never even notice it happening. So here's a strange question. What if the ability to sit still and think, uninterrupted, is quietly becoming one of the rarest skills on Earth? And what if that rarity is exactly what makes it valuable? In the 1920s, psychologist Carl Jung built a stone tower on a lake just to think. No phone, no distractions, just him, silence, and the work that would define his career. Today, most of us don't have a tower. We have laptops with 12 tabs open, 3 group chats buzzing, and a calendar packed with meetings that never let our minds settle. Computer scientist Cal Newport gave this vanishing skill a name: deep work. And once you understand it, you'll never look at a busy workday the same way again. Deep work isn't just a productivity trick. It's rooted in neuroscience, economics, and centuries of how humans have actually produced their best ideas. And we're about to unpack all of it. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly why focus is disappearing, why that makes it valuable, and how to reclaim it. Let's start with what deep work actually means. Cal Newport defines deep work as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive abilities to their absolute limit. It's not just working hard, it's working deep.
Its opposite is shallow work, logistical, low-concentration tasks, emails, quick replies, status updates, performed while distracted. Shallow work feels productive. It rarely creates anything of lasting value. This split didn't always matter as much, but as smartphones and engagement-driven apps spread through the 2000s and 2010s, shallow work exploded, and our capacity for depth quietly began to shrink. Every time you switch tasks, a piece of your attention stays behind. Scientists call this attention residue, and it means multitasking doesn't just slow you down, it actively degrades your thinking. Here's the biology. Focused, repeated practice strengthens myelin, the insulation around neural pathways, making skills faster and more automatic. Distracted practice barely builds this insulation at all. Picture this. You're deep in a task, then you glance at your phone for 10 seconds. That tiny glance can cost you minutes of true focus, even after you look away. Studies estimate many knowledge workers spend as little as a few hours a week in true, uninterrupted focus. The rest gets swallowed by shallow, reactive tasks. But there's a psychological reward waiting on the other side of focus: flow, a state where challenge and skill align so perfectly that time seems to disappear entirely. When J.K. Rowling needed to finish the final Harry Potter book, she checked into a hotel room, away from home, away from noise, just to write without interruption.
Twice a year, Bill Gates disappears for a think week, alone in a cabin, reading and reflecting with no meetings, no calls, just deep, undistracted thought. Across writers, scientists, and executives, the pattern repeats. The people producing the most valuable work aren't the busiest. They're the ones who protect focus like a resource worth guarding. So how do you actually build this into a normal life? Newport outlines 4 philosophies of deep work, different strategies for different lifestyles and careers. The monastic philosophy means radically eliminating shallow obligations, living almost entirely inside deep work. Powerful, but only realistic for a small number of careers. The bimodal philosophy divides time into clearly defined stretches, days or weeks entirely devoted to deep work, and separate periods reserved for everything else. The rhythmic philosophy builds deep work into a daily habit, the same time every day, transforming focus from a decision into an automatic routine. The journalistic philosophy, named after journalists on deadline, means switching into deep focus whenever a moment allows, a flexible approach that takes real practice to master. Whichever philosophy fits your life, rituals make it stick. A fixed time, a specific location, and clear rules for how the session begins and ends.
The ritual doesn't need to be complicated. A single chair, a closed laptop until it's needed, And one clear rule: this space is for depth, nothing else. The first rule is uncomfortable: embrace boredom. If your brain can't tolerate a quiet moment without reaching for stimulation, it won't tolerate deep work either. That craving isn't a personal weakness, it's designed. Notifications trigger small dopamine hits, training your brain to expect constant novelty and punishing you the moment things go quiet. That's why the second rule matters: quit or seriously limit social media. Not out of judgment, but because every open app is a standing invitation to fragment your attention. The third rule is to drain the shallows, actively cutting low-value meetings, needless replies, and busy work that quietly eats the hours where depth could happen. Here's the trap almost everyone falls into: mistaking visible busyness for real value. A packed inbox feels productive. It rarely produces anything that actually matters. Think of it like an iceberg. The visible tip is your busyness: emails, meetings, replies. The massive hidden mass below the surface is your real, lasting output. And multitasking doesn't help. Cognitive science shows your brain doesn't process two demanding tasks at once. It rapidly switches between them, paying a real, measurable cost every single time. Modern workplaces often make this worse. Open-plan offices, constant Slack pings, and always-on email culture are structurally built for shallow work, not depth. So what actually works? Time blocking. Physically scheduling deep work into your calendar the same way you'd schedule an important meeting you can't miss. Pair that with digital minimalism, intentionally curating which technologies deserve a place in your life instead of defaulting to whatever demands the most attention. Do this consistently, and the payoff compounds. Small sessions of real depth stack into skills, insight, and work that shallow effort could never produce. So let's bring this together. We've traced deep work from a stone tower to modern neuroscience, from Bill Gates' cabin to the rules that make focus sustainable. Here's the paradox at the center of it all. The more connected we've become, the less capable many of us are of producing anything truly valuable. But that paradox is an opportunity. When something valuable becomes rare, the people who still master it hold real growing leverage, economically and creatively. Key lesson 1: protect your time before something else claims it. If depth isn't scheduled, shallow tasks will always expand to fill the space. Key lesson 2: treat your attention as a finite, precious resource, not an infinite well to be spent carelessly on whatever demands it loudest. Key lesson 3: start small. One ritual, one protected hour. You don't need a stone tower. You need one consistent block of undistracted time. And here's the future implication. As AI increasingly automates shallow, repetitive tasks, the human ability to think deeply becomes more valuable, not less. This shift isn't distant. It's already reshaping careers right now. The people who protect their focus today are quietly building an advantage most others won't notice until later. In a world flooded with noise, your attention may be the last truly personal territory you have left, worth defending as fiercely as anything you own. So close a few tabs, put the phone in another room, give yourself 1 hour of real depth, and notice what becomes possible inside it. If this made you think differently about focus, subscribe. We break down the science of how the mind really works, one documentary at a time. Deep work isn't just a strategy, it's a stance, a decision to think clearly in a world built to keep you from doing exactly that.